This week I'm going to do an experiment. I've got this embossing folder. You sandwich a piece of card between it and it has a raised side and an indented side, and when you run it through a die cutting machine it embosses your card or paper. So I've got this butterflies and flowers, and this one is flowers. There's some dots that make up spirals. I'm going to use this decorators caulk. It's a paintable filler for when you're decorating, and I'm hoping to use it to see if I can make some kind of inlay. It's got ingredients here which I'm not going to even attempt to try and pronounce, but you want one that is paintable and does not have 100% silicone. It doesn't say on here, but they usually have latex in them. I think I'm going to use the raised side, but you do have a choice. You can also use the indented side. So what I'm planning to do is use the spatula, and I'll spread some of this, just a layer of this caulk, over the top of the embossing folder. It's plastic, so it should be able to peel off easily. You usually can scrape out the caulk once it's dried, once it's hardened, if it's gone wrong. So I'm hoping that it will release off of this plastic folder, but that's part of the experiment, so we'll see. So I'm just going to spread this. As you can see, it really is quite gloopy, but I want to get a decent layer, try and get it into all of the little shapes. There's lots of tiny pieces and dots here, so we'll see how well it picks those up. And once I've managed to spread a layer on here and on the other one, I'm going to leave them to thoroughly dry. It doesn't take too long, but I'll pop them in the sun and we'll see how long that takes. And once they're dry, I'm going to attempt to use it with some Aqua Cast, and I will try some resin, but I'm not expecting it to actually work with the resin. I think because of its texture, the resin will in fact stick to it. It will adhere to it. So I'll just carry on spreading this and then put it to dry. Whilst I'm waiting for that to dry, I've just done a very quick clean up, and I'm going to use this metal shape that I have in, it's a cog or a gear. I have no idea where I got it, but I'm going to place that in the bottom of my coaster mould, just a little square mould, and it's a little bit wobbly there, a little bit bent, so I'll turn it over and make sure it tries and sticks. It's not actually going to stick to the mould, but it's flat. Then I'm going to place some caulk on top of it and spread a thin layer over the bottom. And hopefully I will be able to fill all the little spaces around this cog and then remove it, and it should leave a void or a space where the cog was. So let's see how that goes. So I just lifted the mould up and bent it slightly, and it was really easy to take it out. Now I'll let it dry. Okay, the caulk has dried and I'm starting to peel up the edge. I think it's shrunk a little bit because you can see the imprint now on the top, which you couldn't when I first spread it. As you can see, it's coming off really cleanly and quite easily. So I'll just do this next one, and it's coming off really nicely. It's really shiny and smooth and a lot of detail on it. So the coaster mould that I did is also dry, so I'm going to mix up some Aqua Cast ready to pour it. I've mixed up 100 grams of the powder and 35 grams of water, and I'm adding some black pigment that I made. I used acrylic paint and some water and some acrylic ink. I've mixed a few drops in until I get a uniform grey colour, and then I can add some more just to get some marbling. So I'll just pour it on top of the caulking, and then I'm just going to tap it and shimmy it. I don't want to lift it up or bend the mould. I don't want to scrape the mould because I don't want to shift the caulking on the bottom. I'm just going to try and release as many bubbles by, shaking it and moving it about, vibrating it, and then I'll leave it to set. Okay, it's ready to demold now. And you can see that most of the caulking has stayed in the bottom of the mould. Some of it's just caught on the edge there. And it's given this really nice textured look, almost carved or etched. A bit like I think it's called a travertine tile, I'm not sure. The caulking is easily removed from your mould. Just pull the pieces off. And then just use a baby wipe to wipe off anything that is left behind, and it leaves no marks. Ready to use your mould again. I've got this little dental tool, I think it is, but I use it for sculpting, and while it's still soft you can clean up any edges that you don't like, any overspill. You literally just carve it and scrape it away until you get an effect that you like. On this other one that I made, I used some gilding wax which I brushed over the cog just to highlight the raised areas. But this one needs to completely dry before I can do the same. So I made another coaster, and I used the sheets that we made from the texture plates, cut it out and put it in the bottom. Now let's see if that's going to work. Will it be buried? No, that's not too bad. That worked not badly. It's not very deep, but then the texture plate wasn't that deep. Got a little overspill, and I can scrape some of that off with the dental tool while it's still soft. This texture plate had some very small pieces and they didn't transfer that well. I'd like to see what it would look like if I used the other side of the plate and used the raised areas so that you would get an indent onto the caulking. So it'd be interesting to see what that would look like, and obviously if you used a bigger pattern. So I think this requires a little bit more experiment. I've got a chrome marker in a coppery colour, and I'm going to just highlight the cog itself, just the raised areas. I'm just going to paint over it. I've already showed you that you can use gilding wax. I used that. You can probably use glue or size and use gold flakes, gold leaf. There's lots of ways that you can highlight just the cog or whatever raised area you've produced. And here it is finished. It's got a lovely shine to it, and you can see the texture. Some of that is from the marbling, but a lot of it is actually a wavy surface that was caused by the caulk. There are still some areas which I could have cleaned up around the edges a little better, but this was really just a test and I didn't take the time to finish that. Time was a little bit pressing. But I think that caulk inlays have potential. I used some clear lacquer and acrylic varnish, and I just sealed them outside. I gave them a couple of coats and let them dry for a good 15-20 minutes in between. I love the texture and the depth that I was able to get with the caulk, and I really think the colours, the metallic and the dark grey marbling, it's very industrial. I love the look of it, and I think there's quite a lot of scope with this cork. I'll be interested to see what else I can do with it. Please give me a thumbs up if you like this, and let me know what you think about it in the comments, and come back again next week to see what else I'm doing. Thanks for watching. Bye.